Reality's starting to set in, huh, Jerry? Panic time. Jerry Judy is finally trying to get his.
The Cleveland Browns are heading into a make-or-break season, and all eyes are on the quarterback room. Two names dominate every headline, every debate, every radio call-in show. Deshaun Watson, the $230 million gamble that's turned into the most catastrophic contract in NFL history. Shedeur Sanders, the coach's son turned fan favorite who's fighting to prove he's more than just a name. But buried beneath all that noise, there's a third man. A forgotten man. And if you believe some analysts, he might just have a lifeline. Dillon Gabriel has been written off by just about everyone. The former third-round pick has been treated
about Denzel. We'll get to the Denzel stuff here in a minute. When it comes to Quinshon, I think if you just have the statistical argument about Quinshon in his rookie year, you're missing the fact that he was one of like three guys who were really productive until the injuries hit. But like he was really good in a really bad offense.
Yeah.
In spite of nothing going right around him, I kind of think we're sleeping on Quinshon a little bit going into year two.
So I like that. I feel
like an afterthought in Cleveland's crowded quarterback room, barely getting any first-team reps while Watson and Sanders split the spotlight. Some say he's buried so deep on the depth chart he'd need a miracle to see the field. But here's the thing about the NFL, it doesn't always work out the way the experts predict. From the moment training camp began, the narrative was clear: this was a two-man race. Deshaun Watson, for all his baggage and injury history, still has that fully guaranteed contract sitting there like an anchor around the franchise's neck. Shedeur Sanders, the 2025 fifth-round pick with the famous last name, has momentum and youth on his side. Even rookie Dillon Gabriel, a sixth-round project, was getting more buzz than Gabriel at one point. But then something interesting happened.
Derrick Henry was still doing some things in Baltimore, and so I'm not
saying he's washed up. I just don't know he's still definitively a top 10.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if at some point, he's 32 years old. At some point, he's got to start falling off these rankings, right? Like at some
PN's Phil Yates threw a curveball into the conversation. He suggested that if the Browns are truly going to let this competition play out based on performance alone, Gabriel could work his way back into the picture. Yates argued that this is the truest competition in the NFL, that whoever performs best in training camp should be the Week 1 starter. Most analysts thought he'd lost his mind. And honestly, looking at the situation on paper, it's not hard to see why. Let's be real about Deshaun Watson. The man hasn't looked like the quarterback who led the NFL in passing yards in 2020 since 2020. Two Achilles tears have robbed him of his mobility. The off-field distractions have lingered like a dark cloud. And that contract? It's the kind of albatross that ruins franchise flexibility for years.
A lot of like names that have been top 10 for a long time. And it's like, all right, is Derrick Henry still top 10? Or did he just not have a huge fall off? And maybe he's getting.
But Watson is back, fully healthy for the first time since early 2024, and he made a very public statement this offseason. While most players scattered during the summer break, Watson came back to Cleveland early. He brought his trainer, his physical therapist, and his quarterback coach. He was out there throwing to receivers, including tight end Harold Fannin Jr., who had been recovering from his own injury. The message was loud and clear: Watson isn't going down without.
Hand that out. The idea that Genty was really not nearly as bad as his numbers said. His numbers said he was bad because his offensive line was trash. And the idea that Quinshon is getting that as well. And his yards after contact numbers are incredible. And there's some things that obviously we can point to. But yeah, you can't look at what happened last year and with that offensive line and expect him to be
fight. I'm trying to play a full season, Watson told reporters. I'm just trying to be healthy so I can play all 17 plus games. When you look at his history with the Browns, 19 starts in nearly 4 years, that goal sounds almost delusional. But you can't fault the guy for wanting to earn his keep. One rival scout recently told Athlon Sports something that raised eyebrows across the league: Watson has the talent as a former Pro Bowl selection. He's much better than Shedeur Sanders. That's a bold claim, especially given that Sanders went 7-5 as a starter as a rookie and showed flashes of real promise.
2025 with his production falling almost by half. 50 catches, 600 yards. He ranked last, and I mean, the Browns. I mean, it was just terrible, man. All these drops. Now you see this right here, where it says now during the break leading up to.
Even with a completion percentage of just 56.6% and a 7-to-10 touchdown to interception ratio. But here's where it gets tricky for Watson. Head coach Todd Monken has already said he'd love to have a starter named by now, but he just can't do it. Neither Watson nor Sanders separated themselves from the other during the spring practices. Monken's approach has been methodical, alternating starters, splitting reps, and making it clear that this competition is going all the way to the preseason. They've both played well enough to have the right,
Which is just diabolical, so disrespectful. Let's get into it.
ESPN's yearly survey that they do, where they scan and kind of survey a bunch of NFL coaches, executives, and what
to compete to start. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. That's a coach who's still waiting for someone to prove they deserve the job. Shedeur Sanders is the wild card in all of this. The son of Deion Sanders came into the league with the kind of hype that usually crushes young quarterbacks. And after a few shaky preseason performances, it looked like he might be exactly what the skeptics predicted, a fifth-round pick who got drafted because of his name. Then he got his shot. And while his numbers weren't spectacular, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, Sanders showed something else, resilience. The kid kept competing. He kept fighting. And by the end of the season, Monken was singing a different tune. Throughout minicamp, Sanders seemed to carry himself with more confidence, and his accuracy improved noticeably as the spring progressed. He's working his butt off to really master his craft, quarterbacks coach Mike Bajakian said. That's coach speak, sure. But it's also a clear indication that Sanders is taking this seriously. He never left Cleveland during the break, staying in town to work while Watson took a trip to Florida. But here's the reality check. The Browns are entering a rebuild, whether they want to admit it or not. The Myles Garrett trade sent a message that this team is playing for the future, not the present. With a roster that features 5 players aged 30 or older and a wave of
at Gold Feet TA. Okay, so it looks like Jerry Jeudy was out there trying to put the work in, trying to get it together. I mean, you got to get it together. You see him right here. You got to get it together this year, Jerry. You got to get it together, man. People, they're not going to be waiting around on you this year. They are not going to be waiting.
Young talent, Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin Jr., Isaiah Bond, Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion. Cleveland is building for 2027 and beyond. In that context, Sanders has to be the guy they develop. Why invest reps in Watson, who's gone after the season, when you have a 24-year-old on a rookie deal through 2028? Unless, of course, Sanders doesn't win the job. And that's where the door cracks open just a sliver for Dillon Gabriel. Mary Kay Cabot, the Browns' longtime beat reporter, offered an interesting perspective during a recent radio appearance. When asked about the quarterback competition, she didn't even mention Gabriel. She focused on Watson and Sanders, acknowledging that the veteran could have an advantage if the Browns start the season with 6 of their first 9 games on the road. The hostile home crowd might actually be worse for Watson than a hostile away crowd. That's the kind of bizarre reality the Browns are living in right now. But Cabot also said something else: whoever performs best in training camp should be on the field that opening week. If that's genuinely true, if Monken is committed to letting performance decide this thing, then Gabriel has to be asking himself one question: why not me? The odds are astronomical. Gabriel would need to outplay 2 quarterbacks who have gotten almost all the first-team reps. He'd need to light up preseason games in a way that forces the coaching staff to reconsider everything. He'd need injuries. He'd need chaos. He'd need a perfect storm. But here's the thing about the NFL.
Support. Not just a little support. No support from the quarterback position for the first 11 weeks. And you don't really have anybody else besides Harold Fannin Jr. you can count on. So
stranger things have happened. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Kurt Warner was bagging groceries. The league is filled with stories of forgotten men who refuse to stay forgotten. Gabriel isn't going to win this job outright. Let's be honest about that. But could he carve out a role? Could he force his way into the conversation? Could a strong preseason performance make teams around the league take notice, opening up trade possibilities or future opportunities?
You this year, bring your hands. We don't got time for you to be dropping the ball all over the place. Catch the damn ball. Work back to the football. It's time for you to step up and act like a legitimate top end wide receiver. Or else Denzel Boston, KC.
The Browns have 6 of their first 9 games on the road this season. That road-heavy schedule might actually benefit Watson, who could face less hostility away from Cleveland than he would at home. But it also means that if Watson stumbles, if that injury history catches up with him again, if the boos get too loud, the Browns are going to need someone besides Sanders to step in. And that someone might just be Dillon Gabriel. There's a reason Phil Yates hasn't completely written him off. There's a reason the article from Heavy.com suggested Gabriel has a narrow path back into the conversation. It's not because anyone thinks he's secretly the best quarterback on the roster. It's because the NFL is unpredictable. Careers change on a single play. A backup can become a starter overnight. Gabriel has been quiet through all of this. No complaining about the lack of reps, no demanding trades. No leaking frustration.
Out. Quinshon Judkins was not in the top 10 of their survey, but he was given an honorable mention.
Yeah.
And the perspective was they think he's going to have a monster 2026 year. And then
Frustration to the media. He's just been showing up, doing the work, waiting for his moment. And in a league where patience is a dying virtue, that quiet determination might be his greatest weapon. The Watson-Sanders battle will dominate headlines right up until week 1. There's too much money, too much ego, too much drama for it not to. But while the media circus focuses on the 2 horses in the race, Gabriel is back there running his own race. Not for the...
Jerry Jeudy has been a disappointment outside of one season here with the Browns. He's been a disappointment. Last year, he was second in the league in drops. Okay, there's no way you can be, the number 1 wide receiver and you're second in the league in drops. That explains a lot about the receiving core. Here it says Jerry Jeudy sing training with elite company, and this is courtesy of BrownsNation.com. It says Deshaun Watson isn't the only Cleveland Brown veteran who has something to prove this season. Wide receiver
spotlight. Not for the fame. Just for that one shot. Because all it takes is one shot. One drive. One game where everything clicks. One moment where the coaches look at each other and say, wait, we might have something here. That's what keeps forgotten men going. That's what makes sports the most compelling drama on earth. The belief that no matter how many times you've been written off, no matter how deep you're buried on the depth chart, your moment could come at any second. So yeah, Dillon Gabriel is buried on the bench. He's been forgotten by just about everyone who covers this team. The narrative says this is a 2-man race, and he's not even in the conversation. But narratives have a funny way of changing. And in Cleveland, where chaos seems to be the only constant, maybe, just maybe, the forgotten man gets his moment.